Greetings, math fans. All right, so we are going to do some more factoring. It's a little bit different kind of factoring, but some of the same stuff as well. Okay, so let's actually start out with something called perfect square trinomials. So perfect square trinomials. So it looks a little scary, but we've spent a lot of time actually on trinomials, right? When you just factor a trinomial, you're going to use the x method and then slide and divide if you need to. Okay, so we're actually doing exactly the same thing. So let's actually see what happens here. If I give you a problem like x squared minus 10x plus 25, and I ask you guys to factor that. What you guys should do is, there's a 1 here, so we get 1 times 25 is 25. Draw your x. Since it's a leading coefficient of 1, we just have to use the x method and not slide and divide. And so we put the 25 down. Oh, we put the negative 10 down here. Sorry. Negative 10 down here. Let me erase that. Okay. Negative 10. And then we say, well, what multiplies give you 25? Well, 5 and 5. But of course, they're both negative, right? Because that's a negative 10. So negative 5, negative 5. So your answer to this problem, you would say x minus 5 times x minus 5. So this is a perfect square trinomial because this and this are equal. That's basically what it is. It's a perfect square. Okay, so you're going to write, you're on the answer blank, instead of writing x minus 5, you're going to write x minus 5 squared. Only if it's the same. If it's not the same, you're going to write it. If that was x minus 5, x plus 5, that's you'd write on the answer blank. But if it's x minus 5, you'd write x minus 5 quantity squared. That goes in the answer blank. Okay? That's what a perfect square trinomial is. It's really not difficult. One way to kind of identify, and it's not that it's a big deal, you recognize it ahead of time, but this 25 is a perfect square. Okay, that's part of it. And do you guys agree that the square root of 25 is 5? Well, see this number right here? It's 2 times 5, which is 10, or really negative, right? It's a negative there. So that's kind of how you recognize it. Let's do a couple more here just to have you recognize the problem. So if I said x squared plus 8x plus 16. Okay, I can tell you right away, this is a perfect square trinomial. If you don't recognize it, it's not a big deal. But if you see that 16, that's a perfect square. Square root of 16 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So I know it's going to be a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so let's go ahead and factor it though. So it's going to be 116 is 16. We draw our x. Put an 8 down here. What numbers multiply to give you 16? 4 and 4, because 4 plus 4 is 8. So there we go, x plus 4. X plus 4. Pretty easy. Okay, let's do a couple more here. Let's do x squared plus 18x plus 80, plus 81. Okay, well, 81 is a perfect square. That's kind of a nice thing. And the square root of 81 is 9. 9 times 2 is 81, or is 18. So I know it's a perfect square trinomial, so let's go ahead and do the problem. So 1 times 81 is 81. And since I know it's going to be a perfect square, think of two numbers that multiply to give you 18 that are the same. Okay, well, it's 9 and 9, because 9 plus 9, here, let me put this 18 here. 9 plus 9 is 18, and 9 times 9 is 81. So 9 and 9. And so my answer is going to be x plus 9. X plus 9. And then you write this as x plus 9 squared. That's your answer. Okay, I'm not sure if I actually finished that last one. But you got to write it as quantity squared for that last one as well. Okay, so let's do a couple more. How about x squared minus 14x plus 49. Okay, well, square root of 49 is 7. Oh, double that, negative that. Okay, so let's go ahead and factor this. 49, and negative 14. Of course, it's going to be negative 7 and negative 7. So that means it's going to be x minus 7, x minus 7, and then you want to write this as x minus 7 squared. Okay, that's your final answer. So it's that quantity squared if it's the same term. You got to write it as that quantity squared, though. It's important. Okay? All right, so that's pretty easy. That's a perfect square trinomial. The next type of problem is called difference of two squares. Okay, difference of two squares. Okay, difference of two squares. So first of all, the key word here, there are a couple keywords, difference. So there's got to be a minus sign between them. And two squares means these both on this side and this side must be perfect squares. Okay? They just have to be perfect squares. So let me give you an example. If I said x squared minus 25, that's a difference of two squares because x squared is a perfect square, and 25 is a perfect square, and there's a minus sign between them. Got to know that, okay? So this is, let me show you how to do it using our old method, the x method. So if I wrote this as x squared plus 0x minus 25. Okay, so we get so basically we get negative 25 here, and the 0 goes here. So there's basically two numbers that multiply where one is positive and one is negative, and it turns out that it's negative 5 and positive 5, right? Because negative 5 times 5 is negative 25, and negative 5 plus 5 is 0. So my answer to this problem is x minus 5, x plus 5. Okay, yeah, so that's kind of weird. This, having this is a little weird. So let me show you a little shortcut when you see a difference of two squares. Okay, so if I see something like this, x squared minus 49. This is really what I want you guys to do. I want you, first of all, to recognize that it's a difference of two squares. Okay, and you recognize it because that's a perfect square, and that's a perfect square, and there's a minus sign between it. Yes, three things. You have to know that. A square term, and a minus sign between. If that's the case, this is what I want you guys to do. You're going to get two sets of parentheses. I would like you to take the square root of x squared, which is x. I'd like you to take the square root of 49, which is 7. Okay? And then you're going to put that x and the 7 here, and the x and the 7 here. And you're going to put positive and negative, and then you're done with the problem. What? What? That's all? Yeah, that's it. Okay? So that's not bad. But again, it's recognizing a difference of two squares. And again, how do you know it's a square? Well, most of the time, math fans, just look for the square right here. Okay, come on. You shouldn't be, it's obvious. Like, we're going to do difference of two cubes tomorrow, and then you're going to look for a 3. Okay? And also, that's got to be a perfect square. And the square root of 49 is 7. That's a perfect square. And this has to be negative. It's super important. It has to be negative. If it's not negative, you can't do the problem. So you could not do the problem if it said x squared plus 49. That one you can't do. You're done with that problem. Okay? All right, so let's get a little crazier. Let's do 9x squared minus 25y squared. So is that a difference of two squares? Well, it's definitely a difference. Is 9 a perfect square? Yep. Is 25 a perfect square? Yep. Is x squared a perfect square? It is. And is y squared a perfect square? It is. So what you're going to do is on your answer blank, you're going to put two parentheses. Okay. And then what you're going to do is on above that 9x squared, what's the square root of 9? 3. What's the square root of x squared? X. What's the square root of 25? 5. What's the square root of y squared? Y. So you need to take those numbers, literally transfer them down here. So 3x and 5y. 3x and 5y. Okay? And then what do your last step here, math fans? Plus and minus. And you're done with the problem. Minus or plus, plus, minus, doesn't matter. Does not matter. Okay? So you're basically recognizing it, taking the square root of every term, and putting it in its place in the parentheses, and writing plus minus. That's all you do. Okay, so let's try another one here. Let's do 4x squared plus. Oh, I can't do plus. If it was plus, then you couldn't do it. Okay, so 4x squared minus 81y squared. Okay, not bad. First of all, I recognize the difference of two squares because everything's a perfect square. That's cool. And then let's take the square root of 4x squared, which is just 2x, minus an 80 square root of 81 is 9y squared. Or 9y, sorry, 9y. Okay, so that's all you need. And then when you put your two sets of parentheses, those are the numbers you put down there. So 2x, let's get rid of that negative. So 2x and 2x, 9y and 9y, and plus and minus. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. All right, let's just try a couple more of all these different types of problems, and hopefully you guys are good to go with that. I can say 25x squared minus 49y squared, and we can do x squared minus 18x plus 81. Okay, so this one's a difference of two squares. So square root of 25 is 5, square root of x squared is x, square root of 49 is 7, square root of y squared is y. That's what you're going to put in the blank. Watch this. So plus minus. That's it, baby. So 5x, 7y, 5x, 7y. That's it. It's your answer. Okay. Okay, this one, again, I kind of recognize it's a perfect square because 81 square root of 81 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18, so it's kind of a perfect square. But I'm going to put a 1 here just for the heck of it. I'm going to get 81. Okay. And draw our x. So negative 18. And what multiplies to give 81? Well, 9 and 9, but 9 minus 9. Oh, double negative gives you 18. So my answer is x minus 9. X minus 9. Okay, and then your final answer is x minus 9 squared. Okay, so that's it, math fans. That's it for difference of two squares and factoring perfect square trinomials. All right, that's it, math fans. Have an outstanding day. Adios. Goodbye.